temperatures across the world, and unrest across country after country. It'd be hard to capture the impact of the 2010s in a singular video on YouTube, a site that will continue to rise in popularity in this decade. So let's stick to our neck of the woods. The internet would see incredible growth as cable providers felt what would go on to be a decline in subscribers, leading to the rise of streaming services such as Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime. Digital music sales rose just as dance music, specifically EDM, was achieving commercial success, especially within the United States. And within a year, children, teens, and adults all over the world would experience some of the best games of all time, such as Super Mario Galaxy 2, Mass Effect 2, Rock Band 3, Red Dead Redemption, and a personal favorite of mine, Call of Duty Black Ops, which would go on to become the highest selling within the year of 2010. This isn't even counting later on in the decade we'd be introduced to Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Last of Us, Skyrim, Breath of the Wild, Inside, and many, many more. It was a decade of learning about the Diary of a Wimpy Kid alongside silly bands, holding an iPad or listening to Vaporwave, playing Angry Birds, Doodle Jump, Subway Surfers, Temple Run. It was a decade that rose the acceptance of the LGBT community, fourth wave feminism, and mental health awareness. You either loved or hated Frozen, the highest grossing animated film taking that spot from Toy Story 3, and everything for Cartoon Network was pretty good, except it wasn't. Throughout the 2010s and 2020s, there was a rise in awareness of what the internet is and what it can do. With the rise of streaming came a larger audience that wished to view its media online on demand rather than on TV. However, with different streaming prices and geo-locking, the practice of prohibiting media in a specific region, there was the use of virtual private networks, and one of the best VPNs out there is NordVPN. Easy to use with over 5,000 servers in 60 countries, you can change your virtual location with a simple click, which allows for you to access your favorite content anywhere, even away from home. For animation fans like us, you can find streaming platforms at a lower price, or even access ones that are not available in your country yet. It's simple. All it takes is opening up the map, clicking on the location, and you'll be connected incredibly quickly up to 6 devices on every major platform, including Windows, Android, macOS, Linux, even smart TVs, such as the Android TV supports NordVPN. Now introducing threat protection for Windows and Mac users in order to increase the fight against trackers, malicious websites, sketchy downloads, and intrusive ads, NordVPN offers another layer of protection, even when your VPN is turned off, to protect your private data. I love NordVPN, I've been using it for years, and if you would like to be protected on the internet while viewing media, you can get this exclusive NordVPN deal here, nordvpn.com/alphajshow. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee.
I'm Andrew WK, and this is Destroy, Build, Destroy!
Just a year before, within the summer of 2009, Cartoon Network decided to introduce a line of new shows, live-action shows, in an attempt to rebrand and stay ahead with the times. Dubbed CN Real, featured programs such as Dude What Would Happen, The Othersiders, Survive This, Bobby Says, Destroy Build Destroy, and Tower Prep. It later also featured Level Up, Incredible Crew, and the High Fructose Adventures of Annoying Orange. These were dubbed alternative live-action series, according to a press release at the time. And while that exact same press release announces shows like Adventure Time, Generator Rex, Total Drama Action, and Symbionic Titan, to name a few, to be included within its content strategy, this brief era of CN Real was universally panned. In addition to silently kicking out long-time shows such as Foster's Home and Ed, Edd n Eddy, but also recent shows like Chowders, Transformers Animated, Ben 10 Alien Force, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, and The Secret Saturdays, every single live-action show that premiered in 2009 either released their final episode within that year, aside from Dude What Would Happen and Destroy Build Destroy. Coincidentally, the two most talked about shows of this time period, which would end 2 years into the 2010s. There's something unnerving about being ripped from a comfort zone, and Cartoon Network experienced that within 2008 to 2010. The experience of discomfort, fear, risk management, dealing with problems and challenges head-on. It's partially understandable that many choose to live within these bounds, in fear of experiencing just a sliver of these events. One thing spoken about from high-performing people is this raw feeling of having to perform now, in the moment, with more time doing than thinking. Whether you're a basketball player within the playoffs, or you're a Billboard Top 20 artist, and you're working on your next big single, or something as simple as your first date, or first competitive player versus player experience.
I didn't think it was gonna work.
It's what separates those who realize their limits are far beyond what they originally thought, from those who fold and use that failure as a crutch to underpromise for the rest of their life. I think Cartoon Network getting hit with the cold reality that even as a multi-million-dollar entity, they are not untouchable was the best thing that could have happened to them. To demonstrate my...
ER Doctors, what's the worst state a person has come in? Please like and subscribe to support us. I've seen quite a few in terrible shape.
Yeah, like your mother.
The two that stand out as the most terrible. Not the most boring, because frankly, I've been an ER doc at a trauma center through my entire career, and boring is typical. These cases were just gut-wrenching enough. One guy came in with some belly pain, going on most of the day.
Yeah.
A few typical medical problems and normal vital signs.
Oh,
I see guys like this.
Like my outfit?
Usually, it is no big deal.
the cowboy
Of course,
outfit.
it's a pretty nice
Yeah.
guy to even apologize for wasting my time in his stomach. His belly is a little tender all around. Thinking it might just be diverticulitis, to get a CT scan of the belly and get some laughs. He comes back from CT, and he definitely starts having that I'm sick look to me. I take a look at the CT. I'm not a radiologist, but even I can see the findings. He has pneumatosis intestinalis, gas in the lining of the intestine. The gut is dying or already dead. This is really bad. A quick scan through, and it looks like it involves most of the intestine. I call the radiologist, who confirms and says that there is no part of the gut that is unaffected.
I didn't think word could
Plus,
spread this
he has
fast.
multiple large clots all down the aorta and involves basically every major branch of the aorta from the celiac plexus
There's barely
down,
anyone
and
on this
multiple
train,
organ show changes.
and none of them
Call
look
the
happy to
on-call
be
surgeon,
here.
and he comes right down. He tells me what I guess I knew already. This is not survival. The surgeon, the patient, and I have one of the toughest conversations I've ever had. We basically have to tell him when he is going to die, and it is probably going to be that night. He calls his family, and they come in and say their goodbyes. About 5 hours after he walked in, he lost consciousness, and he died a little bit after that. I've had surprise diagnoses and surprise deaths before, but this might have been
there we go.
toughest. I've never had someone come in walking, talking, and looking fine, figured out what was wrong, and been hopelessly unable to offer anything but pain meds and breathe, ear, tell them it is hopeless, and watch them die. The second one was an elderly man who came in for exposure. EMS said a neighbor called. The man came in with a core temp of 32C,
Here comes the
89.
first hurdle.
Many
Let's
people
do
have
it.
injuries on this temp,
I know,
but he seemed pretty
but
with it.
that doesn't
It
mean
was
I
dead
don't
of
have
winter,
butterflies in
and
my
his gas
stomach.
had been turned off as he was unable to pay. His legs, up to the knee, were frozen. I'll say again, frozen, literal ice blocks. At the same time, he had tiny burns,
Hey,
some even third
would you
degree on
mind
his
keeping
torso,
an eye on things
hands,
the next
and
car
upper
over?
legs.
I'm
He had been
worried there might
keeping
be
as
trouble.
warm as he could by holding
Why
a
is
light
that?
bulb near his body. He
Eric's
would get
always on
burned
edge
when he
before
fell asleep,
missions.
and the light
But you
bulb
know
touched
he's a
him.
good guy underneath
The
it
sheer
all.
suffering he
People on
endured
this
to get in that
train
state is
don't.
heartbreaking. Even more so because with a single phone
Maybe.
call to the gas
But
company,
I won't
as
be
it was
until I
cold
know
and he
for
was
sure.
elderly, they would have been required to provide him gas service
Be
until
right back.
springtime.
Thanks.
Of course, he didn't know that and didn't have a phone. Instead, he basically froze in his own home. One of the burn surgeons
What up,
tried to
Thanos?
help, but unsurprisingly, the guy was too
do you
far
still
gone.
support those terrorists?
ER doc here. 26-year-old girl, an unrestrained passenger riding
Avalanche
with
is
a
a
drunk driver.
blight on
Her
Midgard.
head went into the windshield and popped the whole windshield off the car. Her skull was filleted open
Their
from the
bomb
forehead
threat
up,
has thrown
brain
our offices
completely
into
exposed and
chaos,
falling out of
let
her
alone the
skull,
reactor
largely
itself.
intact
It's
but horribly
total
swollen.
insanity.
Rest of her face and body was
But
essentially
we won't
unmarked.
lose heart.
She was
No.
breathing on her own, but not
Everyone
moving
at
purposefully.
Shinra agrees.
She got
The
intubated, taken
reactor
to
will
the
stay
operating room.
online.
I asked the neurosurgeon what the plan was, and he said, "I'm just going to cut
What?
off the part that's
You got a
sticking
problem
out."
with that?
She had a partial
Do I
lung.
have a
The skull
problem
was
with
left
that?
open with the hope the swelling
Oh,
would go
you
down.
can bet.
She was basically brain dead that night and died a week later. Driver was drunk but had a seatbelt on. Walked out of the ER that night. EMT here, not a doc, but I've got one that sticks with me. A new dialysis patient had just gotten his shunt implanted, wasn't comfortable
You know
with it,
you're better
must
than
have been
that.
fussing with it, and it came out. For those that don't know, a dialysis shunt is connected to the brachial artery, just after the aorta, so that it can pump a high volume of blood into the dialysis machine to filter. With the shunt ripped out, though, the heart was basically just pumping blood straight out of the body. So by the time we get there, this guy is laying next to his couch, just empty, pale, cool. He almost looked like wax. You would almost think Dracula had gotten to him, if not for the human body's worth
I
of
have
blood
nothing
on the
more to
floor
say to
and walls
you and
around
your
him.
friend.
We tried CPR for the family's
Oh,
sake.
3-star
But
style on your ass, bro.
not a doctor, a nurse. A mentally disabled man who was also blind and deaf who lived with relatives. Apparently, he lived locked away in the basement, and they would just bring him down bread and peanut butter and water to eat, and that's all he had eaten for over 2 years. The police were called when the neighbors saw an emaciated bearded old man crawling around the backyard naked and confused. Guy comes in, leg wounds full of maggots, covered in filth, lice in his hair and beard, emaciated and starving. I remember receiving him from the emergency department, trying to calm him down. We washed him and cut his hair, and deloused him.
Take care of them, Cloud.
You know how people always complain about hospital food? I have never seen a patient more appreciated. We were sitting for
You have to get to the next call.
and he would get a look on his face like it was the best thing in the world. He always ate us about and we ended up working for about 3 months, awaiting treatment. He went from 90 pounds to 130 pounds. He lost his very It makes me sick. I'm not sure whatever happened, but I know there was an investigation. I work at registration, so I only understand
You have to get out of
was a
here.
guy who was completely
What are you
unconscious
doing?
from an
Trying to keep you alive.
Oh!
I'm the enemy.
I don't care. I don't want
All of
anyone
his
to
flesh
die.
looked insanely
Please.
broken. I did not think he would be okay. Then, like, I don't know, 4-ish hours later, I saw him walk out the
My
door.
turn.
So I guess he was all right. They mentioned the guy who was
Oh!
There's no way to that. He threw his finger on the car. His son was absolutely pissed that he had to bring his dad to the hospital.
Looks like you're right, soldier boy.
Here.
Screw this.
Had a nurse come grab me.
The station will be crawling with security.
You need to see
We gotta
room
jump.
6 right now.
Screw that.
For those of you who don't work
need to
in
slow the
ER,
train down.
when one of the nurses tells you to go
Sounds
see
like
a
a big
patient,
plan E.
I take a few steps towards room 6.
Plan E.
I gag him, and this is during COVID times and mask. I peer through the glass doors of room 6.
Show you how it's done.
Sitting next to her parents and family. Meanwhile, I hear one of our veteran ER nurses vomiting in the background. I introduce myself to everyone and ask her about the young lady. She starts not by talking, but by simply removing the trash bag.
You okay?
There I saw it. A 6 by 8 inch necrotic, fungating tumor protruding from her tibia. She then proceeds to explain. It started 6 months ago with a cut that wouldn't heal.
Alright.
It then changed to appear like a fungal skin infection. She Googled it and was confident in the diagnosis.
Get ready.
She decided to treat it by on a sugar pill. She convinced her whole family to do the same. And then, about a month prior to her visit,
Keep it together.
Let me handle it. Keep it up.
so she's been living in a room at home taking birth in law.
Now for change.
Leave it to me.
She added on the because it grew/developed so slowly.
You're done.
Following the conversation, I heard another nurse talk. I then sat down and delivered the bad news that this was not a fungal infection and likely advanced cancer. That we would be admitting her to the hospital for further workup and surgical resection. I followed up on her inpatient testing the next week. Innumerable metastatic tumors to both her
For
lungs.
when we jump
I never saw the biopsy results, but my guess is melanoma versus squamous cell.
You
Poor
always know
girl
what
is
to
probably
say.
dead by now if she didn't hit the lottery with immunotherapy for metastatic melanoma. an elderly disabled veteran who moved in with his sister and her husband.
Well done,
and
well
locked them
done.
in their garage.
I
They would
felt
occasionally
sure
throw
we
bread
had
and
that,
alcohol in
didn't
their
you?
living and proceeded to collect / cash his disability checks
Born
as they arrived.
survivors, he's
He sat in that garage
Speaking
in a
of
drunken
which,
stupor
where's the
and his own
third?
waste, for God only
In
knows
custody,
how
sir.
long, before a neighbor
Return it
reported
to the
hearing
wild.
crying from the garage
Yes,
and
sir.
god-awful
Right
smell
away.
once he got close enough. The paramedics and police arrived. The home's occupants were immediately arrested on a variety of charges and wheeled the victim away. They brought the gentleman into the ER, and the stench of rotting flesh arrived as the doors opened. He was sitting up and leaning forward with a plastic shopping bag clutched in each hand. He was
Oh shit!
socks and held on until
It's them! I have a visual on the target! Requesting immediate assistance! Deal with that.
Let's go.
He was a guy rotted.
Here we go.
Ironically,
Let's finish this.
There were only bits of flesh remaining between the toes. Then as we began to disrobe him further, we found more maggots crawling out of his penis and anus, eating him from the inside out. We put
Take
on
him
full
down.
hazmat.
Enough. That's that.
I remember finishing the shower and carrying him like a child back to a waiting bed. That was when he said the only thing I heard him say the whole time. Just a simple,
So long.
clearly the nicest thing that someone has done for him in a long time. All right. Most meaningful. That poor gentleman. Amputation This is one of the most horrible
You're good
things
at
I've
this.
ever seen. And the level of human
Told you
depravity
so.
that inflicted this on this man is still something that angers me. Incidentally, both his sister and her husband were convicted on numerous charges, and both received life sentences. There's little solace in that, but it doesn't dull the sorrow I feel for that man.
He's close. Come on.
I code medical records for a living, and I've had some crazy jobs. I have learned several things over the years. One,
We're
too
coming.
many people are too embarrassed to purchase sex toys.
over there.
One of the worst cases was a gentleman
Oh,
who
right there.
rented a hotel/motel room
Yeah.
and decided to clean it naked, like you do obviously, and was scrubbing the shower and slipped and fell onto the wooden stick of the toilet plug that just happened to be stuck to the floor of the tub when the shower rod he was holding on to for stability broke. I think he lived, but he had to have a major
That
bowel
doesn't sound
resection and was
good.
going to likely have a
Let's go.
colostomy bag for the rest of his life. 2. People with long hair should not be around.
Before you jump on the train, don't let any of them escape.
He got scalped when his hair got caught in the machine and ripped his hair, scalped, and all over his head. Again, the amazing
Take the lead.
Yes, it's my turn.
untreated diabetes. Guy came into the ER with shortness of breath and some chest pain. The doctor realized he is in congestive heart failure. They admit him and have him get in a hospital gown, and so on. He took off his shoes, and the smell was absolutely.
I got this.
They looked down.
It's on you.
Taking over. Going in.
How he couldn't smell or see.
Here it comes. Here we go. You're done.
Reading all these When I was 13, my dad nearly murdered my mom. He used a wrench he had
That's gotta
hidden.
be the last
I was
one.
next door and
Right.
tried to get out. And beat her.
We can take it. Now
She
let's
ended up
confirm our
biting his thumb
position
off.
and get back
She
on
passed
mission.
out,
Now
and she
react.
somehow
Wait.
regained consciousness and left. And
Looks
a
like
neighbor
it's
saw
gonna
her
be
and
Plan
helped.
E.
They had to bring in a life flight to take her to a level 1.
Plan A was
Multiple
if everything
broken
went off
fingers
without a
from holding her hands
hitch.
over
From
her
the
head and tons
station,
of big
it
dents
would have
in
been
her
a
skull.
straight shot to the
Fucking
reactor.
miracle she's alive and not a vegetable.
Didn't work
One
out,
of the docs
but
that
we knew
treated her
going
said he
in
had
we
never
had to
seen
have
anything so bad.
alternatives.
My
Backup
dad
plan
got
in case
sentenced
we
to
had to
life.
get off
I was
first.
subpoenaed and had to testify. With
From
the
closer
possibility
in
of
to
parole,
further
I ended
out,
up doing
B,
21 years
C,
in max before he
D,
was
and
paroled.
so on.
Gave me a real bad
Up to
case
what?
of PTSD and made me suicidal.
To
At
E.
one point, I haven't seen or talked to him
Lucky
since he was
us.
in prison about 20 years ago. I was the first on scene for a car accident that happened in front of me. Narrow
Anyway,
back road.
we were riding
lots
the
of
train
sharp
between
turns and
Sector
twists.
4 and the main pillar when we
I
had to
slowed
bail
down,
out.
getting ready to
And
turn,
we
but
ended
was
up on the
waiting for a dog
adjacent
in the
line,
road.
which should take us
There
to
was a
Reactor
minivan
5.
that kept going. As they approached the turn,
That's right.
a car with
So
some
for now,
drunk
we
teenagers
follow the
came speeding
tracks.
around the curve and
Not
barreled
too
straight
far,
through the
though.
minivan.
Need to switch
And
to
I
a
do mean
different route
THR.
before we hit the
The
station.
minivan essentially shattered and exploded.
'Cause you
I
can bet
immediately
your ass
threw
is
my
gonna
phone
be
to my
crawling
passenger.
security.
My friend's
All
13-year-old
on
younger
high
sibling that I picked
Let's
up from
move.
soccer practice since I volunteered at the school and told her to stay in the car. Call 911.
Our friends
I ran to the car to do whatever I could do.
So don't worry about
I was first aid / CPR certified and had training in swift
It's a
water
straight
rescue and
shot to
survival
victory,
training.
people.
But I was
All we
woefully
gotta do
unprepared. The
is
driver
tank
was the father, though I only know that because I was told. There wasn't much left of him to make any identification. The
You have
mother was in
nothing
the
to
front
worry
seat
about,
with a
sir.
large piece of
Preparations for
dashboard
the
sticking out
grand
of her
finale
eye,
are
pinning
proceeding
her to
without
the seat.
incident.
There was also a
I
very
have
large
the
slice to her
utmost
leg,
confidence
bleeding
that
profusely.
everything will play out as
Did
you
not severe
intended.
the femoral artery, though.
Yes.
I knew to
of
leave the
course.
dashboard in
I will
place,
not
and I
fail
had
you,
another
sir.
person who stopped to help apply pressure on her leg wound to slow the bleeding and keep her calm. From there, I crawled into the back of the van through a small hole.
Sir,
There was a baby
analytics
in a car
reports
seat,
that the results
screaming
fall
its
within
head
the
off.
admissible range.
A few cuts,
However,
but
the
truly a
casualty
miracle
rate
that was all.
significantly
I
exceeds
didn't want to
previous
risk internal
projections.
injuries, so I left the baby there to cry. A crying baby is an alive baby.
Remind me what
There
your
were two
job
other kids in the
is.
back of the
Is it
car.
to question the
Toddlers,
wisdom of your
maybe 5 and
superiors
7.
and bemoan your
What
personal
I saw back there is
hardships?
what will haunt me forever. The 7-year-old had been mostly
Casualty
decapitated by a party
You think I
friend.
care about the
They were
casualty
alive,
rate?
in shock,
Their
and
pause
kept
is
asking
the
me for
greater
help getting
gain.
their seatbelt off.
If your
This
stock
lasted about
runs
30
low, then
seconds
go
before
round
they
up
said,
more from
"Daddy,"
Sector 3 or
and
wherever
passed away.
else.
The 5-year-old was also in shock.
Use
and
your
had several
head and bring
substantial
me
injuries. I was
solutions
applying
instead of
pressure while
problems
waiting
for a
for
change.
EMS.
Yes?
They arrived on the scene in
Sir.
about 10 minutes. It felt like hours. I was crammed into a mangled mass of steel and glass. Squeezed into a
It's so
crevice
hard
was
to
too small.
find good help
I
these
never should have been
days.
able to squeeze through, but I did.
Which is why the
I held
president
the
ought
hand
to
of the
count his
5-year-old
blessings.
while applying pressure to their armpit/chest,
What would he
singing
do
lullabies
without
to her
me?
infant sibling to keep them both calm, while their older brother sat dead in the next seat. Their mother was in the front seat, barely holding on to life, and their father was in little pieces around them. It was surreal. It took me a long time to process what I saw and experienced. I stayed in the back of the vehicle until EMS and fire rescue managed to tear open the roof and access the kids. All in all, I think I was there about 45 minutes to an hour inside the car. They wound up being neighbors to my friend, so I did get updates on the family. The mother survived, though she lost her leg and was permanently on an ostomy bag. The baby got 3 stitches and went home that night with a family. The 7-ish-year-old was dead on scene, as was the father. No holding back. Several damage to the lungs,
Keep it together.
Bringing the heat! Keep pouring it on! Don't stop now!
She made a
Bring it.
Damn it!
20 years.
Give him
Still
hell!
dealing with the
Let's go.
emotional. Nothing prepared me.
Finish him off.
While crews are scraping liquefied body parts off the
There's no escape. You're up.
My turn.
as far as the car. They all suffered minor.
That's it.
And some people
You're mine.
working in ER.
Follow the blue lights and we'll
Getting
reach the
patient info
reactor.
for billing. The worst thing I've ever seen personally was a car rear-ended at ungodly speeds. 2 little girls in the back. One luckily turned out to have minor bruises
Jesse
and
was
cuts.
gonna back him up.
Thought her
so
condition
wouldn't
was
surprise
worse
me
due
if
to
he
her
needs our
sister's
help.
blood covering.
So let's not keep it
The
waiting.
other little girl was mangled
Right.
more than any child should be. Her dad was really
Take the lead.
and we made
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
This was my second
Goodbye! You got this!
All set. Heads up. It's all you.
I got this.
war wasn't
Mallory, what's the kid doing?
Going in.
What are you doing?
He did what he could, telling me names of his daughters.
Take that cup in the kitchen, man.
Don't overdo it.
And he asked me
You're not drinking that.
I told him truthfully
Let's go. Good luck.
Hang back.
I'm sure to
Keep it together.
Need my help, do you?
Bring it.
Oh yeah! I've been waiting for this!
That was
his
easy.
signature before I can do all this.
Sure.
At that moment, the father blurts out, "Yes, anything to save her life. Is my other daughter okay? Can I see them?" He begins asking millions of questions, and the surgeon calmly explains he cannot at the moment. They need to some more stuff to make sure everything is okay. I think the surgeon didn't want his dad to see how his one daughter was. The father signs, the surgeon thanks him and promises he will do everything he can to save her life. As the surgeon left, the father immediately hugs onto me from his bed, and starts bawling. He very loudly told me, "Don't take them from me, take me instead." I understand it wasn't aimed at me and more prayer. I am technically not supposed to touch patients, but I hugged him back and didn't let go until he did. His wail shook everything in my body as I watched him slowly spiral down more and more into his primal cry. I, of course, cried with him, not the single manly tear or anything.
Good thing our colleagues put
It
up all that
probably
stamp
looked like that
graffiti.
one picture of
Without
Kim
it,
Kardashian
we'd be lost
crying.
for sure.
We cried for what was ours, I assume, and he finally let go and asked if I needed to go finish any other paperwork. I mentioned I can sit here and fill out my paperwork. As I'm finishing up, they originally
No time to celebrate.
Really bad, but it wasn't her blood, but it is from the other dog. She's in surgery, and so far, everything is looking good.
I think it
Everyone
might
in
be
the
a
room lets
nest.
out a collective relief
All
sigh.
kinds of creepy
Thanks to
crawlers
nurse.
make themselves at
I tell him I know.
Then get
Unfortunately,
messed up even
have to
more
return to
by
work, but will give him any news I
Marco
can,
did this?
if I can. He thanks me and says he's so sorry to say it's just a piece of blood, and we laugh back. Work goes by. Years to start. The next day I come into work. I ask him to do it right. I really need to know what I'm doing. Or if you know what. At that time, I assumed that family's mother was now thanking nurses and come up to me explaining who she is. Thanks me 1,000 times for comforting her husband. She blurts out before I can get a word out and just told me her daughters are going to be okay. The one needing surgery is already showing every good sign of coming with that surgery.
This should
She
be
hugged me
pretty
and
easy.
thanked me.
It's on you.
Thank her, thank the nurses. It was a real work. After all the doctors, yeah, and all my stresses, I've seen it. That father said, I don't want this reason. What was me? Something like that. But this story is strictly it broke me up to the right day and taught me to share a
Give him your all!
taken away from anyone.
Hey, Tifa.
I'm so
You
happy
alright?
the story
Guess I
ends
might
up
have held you
happy.
back
And the
some.
last thing I heard was the little girl wishes to be a nurse to save people just as she was saved.
What now?
It's you!
So you were there quick.
What is the weirdest thing you've come across during this? Please like
You're
and
done.
subscribe and support us. I'm a volunteer firefighter. And one of my weirdest calls is something that happened. We receive a page saying the local naval air station has a plane down,
Allow me.
requesting tanker and manpower assistance. We respond to the 6 guys in our tanker. We get to the mountain, drive out to the brushland on the runway, and see 2 small grass farms as well as some smoldering wreckage of a naval T-45 train. We're told to stay by our trucks until the wreckage is cleared by the NAS firefighters. So we just stand around, bullshit. My lieutenant and I are standing there when we see one of the naval firefighters hauling us around the truck, yelling, "Climb up! Get off the ground!" We don't question the guy and almost bolt on top of our truck.
Don't hold anything back!
Not knowing what to expect, and see a freaking wild pig running towards the truck. She hits the side, bounces back a little, snorts, and runs off into the brush, where we now notice a pack of piglets coming around her, then following deeper. Then we look at the Nas guy, and he just shrugs
I got
and
this.
says, "I don't know what set her off, but she's fine." Then we just got back down and run out his business while we stood there, looking at each other, laughing our asses off. Working a shift with an ambulance.
You're free!
I'm not an EMT. I was there for a company building a tunnel. Went to a call about intense abdominal pains. Get to the appointment. Nah, we can hear the guy yelling from deep in the hospital, saying,
Let's finish.
"Bust it down." So the we go in. Fully clothed, lying on his bed in a fetal position, moaning. The EMTs start taking his vitals. He's breathing, pulse is fast but strong. Temperature is a little up, but nothing. And they fire off the questions about food, sex, injuries in the past, anything at all that could result in abdominal pains. And one of them is trying to feel his gut, hits something, and just turns pale. Says, this guy's got a huge cyst or something, it's hard as a rock, and it's inflamed. Better roll. So they throw him on the gurney, and out we go. I'm audio taping the whole conversation back to dispatch as we run down the hall. We load up and head. 2 minutes into the trip, the guy screams, and jerks then faints. One of the EMTs noticed a big dark wet spot on the guy's ass. so they start cutting away his trousers. We arrive just as they clear away enough to see he's bleeding no more. I go in with the team and start the prep work, but the bleeding is getting worse, so finally into surgery, where they removed a softball and a baseball from his anus. Apparently, he lubed up, put the baseball in a condom, enjoyed it, so went bigger, and got the softball in, but then the cramps began.
Oh, God.
And dinner conversations are usually interesting. She had one partner that just seemed to attract all the crazy calls. We'll call him Pat. Both of these happened while she was riding with him. They get a call for a woman in labor, not quite full term, but close. When they get there, she's already spread out, saying she has to push. They never even had a chance to get her on a stretcher. Delivering babies isn't that unusual for paramedics, but this didn't go as planned. After 5 or so minutes of straining and groaning and pushing with my mom at her head and her partner on the business end, they had a successful delivery of an approximately 10-pound bird right into Pat's
Those
hand.
things really creep
Seemed
me
she'd been
out.
constipated for ages and not done anything about it. When the time finally came, she mistook the stomach cramps for labor. Another day, another call, they end up in the projects with an overweight woman complaining of chest pain. Usually, when there's a chest pain call, the patient is not up and walking around and cussing at everyone/thing in sight. This woman was doing all of the above, shirtless. She kept loudly repeating that her chest hurt while my mom and Chad asked her to let them take her vitals and to explain where the pain was. Eventually, the
Check it
woman
out.
had enough of them
I
not
guess she was
understanding
doing
her
something
and
about
walked up
those
to
monsters
Pat.
after all.
She screamed, I said my chest hurts, picked up her huge saggy breasts, and flopped them into Pat's hand.
Just give it a quick
She
once-over
wasn't
and
having
call.
heart pains. She was having a little chest pain. Full pain.
Terrorists with the train!
But those are my favorite. All right, it'll be ridiculous running me out, and then really helps them deal with some of the horror things they face.
Deal with that.
One of my favorite works in the West Valley Division is he patrols the area near where Alicia Silverstone was partner was driving around when they got a 5,150 call, otherwise known as a crazy person on the streets. However, the person knew so much as it was about. A 50-year-old man was sitting on a ledge and shitting over the other side. His pants were nowhere to be found, so my buddy and his partner get there, and they approach the man. It smells fucking terrible, but they still begin to talk to the man. The man seemed to be a bit hungover. He had probably been drinking during the day and got dehydrated. He tried to explain to them who he was, but nothing was coherent. My buddy and his partner didn't know what to do. They didn't really have the means to transport a man with crap running
We've
down his
compiled
legs.
our report on
My buddy's
Avalanche's
partner had a
combat
good idea.
capabilities and our...
They approached the man. Sir, how are you feeling? Why?
What good do you think a damn report
my
will
head
do
hurts.
anyone?
You hear that? His head hurts. Call
Have you
911.
already forgotten the
My
war
buddy
with
looked
Wu
astonished. He radioed for an ambulance,
An
and one
enemy
had arrived
spared
in a
is an
couple of
enemy
short
who will
minutes.
repay your
The cop
kindness
explained to
with
the
blood.
paramedics that the man was severely dehydrated,
We must
which
crush
caused
them
his bowels to
thoroughly and
evacuate.
completely,
Not that
without
he was just
hesitation
super
or
hungover.
mercy.
So that is how my
Shinra
buddy and
cannot
his
and
partner
will
got out
not
of
settle
fucking a
for
crazy
anything
man
less.
covered in poo back
Will
to the
you?
station. My former art teacher used to work in the forest service, so tell us stories about
I
funny
can only
/
assume
weird shit that
that you
happened.
and your men no
I
longer
still
wish
doubt the
to
validity
serve
of
in
this,
your
but
current
he had no
position.
reason to lie and
Is
swear
that
stuff.
correct?
There were firemen out in the middle of nowhere basically fighting a forest fire, Arizona, or brush fire.
We'll
There wasn't
prepare
any
the
real
prototype
danger
in
to
Section
people
E for
because of how
immediate
remote
deployment.
this location was. Whether this happened
Right now,
on break
damn it.
or away from a fire, he didn't specify, or I have forgotten, but off in the distance, they saw a figure,
Another
a
day,
brightly
another
colored figure
victory.
walking home.
How do
As
I
they
do
sprinted
it?
and started to pursue the figure, they realized there was a fully dressed and face-painted clown out in the middle of nowhere. No campgrounds, no houses for miles. And he had nothing on him, at least visible. Big bag for basic survival. He was just calmly walking alone in the middle of the forest. While they started to get closer but still fighting through the brush, the clown saw he was being followed and evaded them and was never seen again. No one had heard anything or just kept it as a secret. When I was on the FD, we had a call for a power line down at a cell tower up on a hill in the middle of nowhere. This was during a bad storm. Power company trucks were all tied up already when we got towed down.
It's not
We get
that
there,
I mean
and the power line to the cell
the fact
tower
that
is lying in
Shinra
the
took a
road.
loyal animal
There
like
is a
that
number on the
and
shack at
co-opted
the
it for
bottom
their
of the
own
antenna,
self-serving
so we called the number.
Poor old stuff.
While trying to get a hold of someone from the cell tower, which is running on a generator and possibly still energizing the line that is laying the
Think you're
street,
making
we
progress,
realize the
and then
door to the
it'll
shack is unlocked, so we're all standing
You're
inside it
starting
out
to
of the
sound
rain.
like Baron.
The end.
It's
Chief
a
is
good
on his
plan.
phone talking to some guy about the antenna, and all of a sudden, he goes pale white, like a ghost,
way.
then walks out the door into the ran and tells us all to get out. Turns out the guy on the phone had told him that whatever happens, don't go in the shack because it is infested with brown recluse spiders that are attracted by the warmth. Everyone was shitting bricks when they heard that. My uncle was an EMT and fire captain for a while. He does some different training type stuff now, which means he doesn't go out on calls much anymore. Anyway, his weirdest story was about two guys who got killed by a his fire was on the border of the so would their people would go riding dirt bikes and motocross bikes. These two guys like to jump some Here we go. He tried to get them to stop at various points, but finally, he had enough of them. He one day put up in a clearing /open thing of high-tech chicken farm or something like that. One of the guys on a motorcycle came through at head level and didn't get his head taken off, but the line seriously cut into his neck, and he ultimately My uncle was the one who was called to the scene to try and save him, but he was pretty much dead when he got there. He says the call has always sort of bugged him because it was a younger kid 20-something. Driving home on a storm day, I see that a side road blocked off by flashing barricades. I also spy past the barricades. I stop and walk up to the car to see if they need help. I'm an EMT. Taking a light in the back seat. That's that. Think we've got a few drops. I move up to the driver's window and rap on the glass, and shine my light in. The driver is sitting bolt upright, and moving on the steering straight. That's that. My window wrapping or light doesn't cause him to blink, flinch or move. I look over, and the passenger is slumped forward onto the dash. This begins to creep me out. I call down to the sheriff's station and request a code 2. No lights/sirens, leisurely arrival, unit up to my location to help me check them out. Doors are locked. While on the phone, I walk back to my truck to get my go bag. As I'm on the phone with dispatch, she asked me to get a license number for the car just as a PG&E, power company, cherry picker truck comes rumbling down from up the closed road. I move to go around the truck to get the plate number, and the car is gone. I talked to the driver of the truck, and he said there was an 80-foot tree down across the road and that he didn't think it'd be open for a day or so. So the question is, the hell did the car go? Tree up one way, barricades down the other. It's kept me a bit unsettled when stopping at accident/hazard since then. A guy had accidentally hung himself in his garage. He literally had a contraption he had built that held him in a harness. One of his arms controlled a rope that was attached through a pulley system with a dildo at the end. As he pulled the rope, the dildo did the job on his backside. The other arm controlled the same kind of pulley, but at the end was a noose that was tied around his neck. Needless to say, he pulled a little too tight on the noose end. It was a nice normal neighborhood, and the guy was married with kids with a seemingly completely normal life. I've got a few. I came to an unconscious, unresponsive young male in a bathroom with massive bleeding. Turns out he was getting frisky /a plunger, and his feet slipped out underneath him, and it just ripped his hollow and solid organs apart. He was obviously DOA. Another was an old lady who hadn't been seen outside her apartment for quite some time and wasn't answering the door. We knew she had died as we could smell her from outside. The fire department knocked down her door. I told the firefighter to go in, and he was like, no way, it would be an emergency, fully knowing that she was almost 100% dead. Lights were all turned off, and it was 2 a.m., so each way, I had to flip the switch. There were bloody paw prints all over the place, and in the bathroom, the toilet seat had been flipped up, and there were bloody paw prints all around it as well. When I flipped the bathroom light, I was pretty sure what I was seeing, but it was worse than I had expected. The cats had started to eat her after she had died. I was 19 at that time. We responded to a call where a mid-50-something-year-old semi-frail looking male bit his early 20-year-old something son, who probably outweighed the father by about 150 pounds or so, about 25 times all over his body. Everywhere. Arms, neck, torso, legs. It was ridiculous. They were deep marks, too, like he was trying to rip skin away. Apparently, they got into an altercation over who knows what, and the wife/mother had to break it up by threatening them both with a large kitchen knife which the police confiscated. But the kicker was, there were no drugs or alcohol involved. Another was when we responded to a child who fell and hit his head on a tire that was sitting in their yard. Why it was there, I have no clue. But anyway, I went to check his people, but the last one was completely closed. It looked almost like a tiny dog. I almost flipped an absolute shit because it seemed suspicious. But talking to us properly, but the size of his pupils, when compared to the other, indicated moderate to severe head trauma, plus the whole abnormal pupil shape which I've never seen before. Well, after I flipped the shit to myself, I asked the mother. It turns out he was stabbed in the eye by his sister with a pencil when he was angry. This, my friend, is why you must always get a good patient here. My mother, who was a case manager for a while, had two interesting stories. A homeless woman who was a paranoid schizophrenic came into my mother's office with a severe infection in her foot. When my mother asks her if she thinks she's ready to be discharged, she proceeds to tell my mom that she did not have an infection in her foot, but that she was turning into a paralytic. And the other, that another man with schizophrenia explained to my mother that the voices in his head told him to cut off his penis and feed it to his dog. When I was still doing clinicals for my research, I had a ride along with a company that served someone. The first call we went to was a woman with breast. We pulled up to a house that looked like it was made from two places. There was a dilapidated shanty in the middle of the woods.
What do we do?
To the drop of my stomach, knowing this was going to be a weird one. We walked in, and the floor was dirty, covered in dirt, actual dirt. There was a burned barrel in the corner, and an engine mattress on the floor covered in caterpillars. The PT looked rather weary while I was checking her vitals, and I could see the shame in her eyes. We put her in the back of the truck for transport. I gave her some nitro and tried to talk with her. It was a really sad and strange thing, and it still sticks out in my mind 7 years later. Of course, we had a moved out user later in the day that was weird too, but only because I've never seen someone enjoy drinking activated charcoal as much.
I think you got it, Detective!
We were dispatched to a fire. You two stay on the line in to report that her husband had fallen in the shower. Groans for myself and my partner who was a slightly old man's heart that was going along down. We reach the residence and are led upstairs to the shower, where we find a perfectly alert older man sitting down on one of us, handing him a fold-out shower seat. The short conversation goes like this. Hello, sir. I'm John and Mrs. Smith. We're paramedics and are here to help. How about we give you a hand and help you stand up? I can't stand up. Yeah, we know. That's why you're whining. If you let us take your arms, you'll have to lift you up. You're something. You don't understand. I can't stand up. Take a look at the seat and you'll see what I mean. The construction of this particular shower seat was several wooden slats arranged horizontal, with the attachment points of hinges that could swivel just slightly. When the poor guy fell out in the shower, he squatted down in such force that the slats opened side to side, allowing just enough space for his arms to scoop it, after which the slats promptly snapped back into place, reminding him to the chair. We tried to open the slats again, but that only succeeded in applying pressure on things that obviously did not want to be pulled on at that moment. Eventually, we called for an engine mechanic, who extricated the poor guy by cutting off the entire seat, which is how he was transported. Never did get to find out how things ended up. I went to college for natural resources law enforcement. Didn't really learn much, but we heard many stories about professionals. So here's one of them. He was working in a space park said she had seen a man
I think we gotta take these down first.
His partner and then went to check it, and there was no one to be seen. They came back down and asked the lady to sure they went back in just to make sure, and they took a look into the toilets. They were the outhouse style.
Give him a show, will you?
The man was racing and shaking. My bro is a cop, and his wife was an EMT, one of my close friends was an EMT as well, so I heard a few stories. One of the first stories I heard from my brother during his first month on the job. They got called out to this guy who was walking around with a gun, talking about killing himself. Several cops get there and have weapons drawn in case he points it at them or anyone, but he just keeps it on himself, yelling. Well, he finally pulled the trigger, no shot goes off. Then he does it again, no shot. Again, no shot. Then like the fourth or fifth time, he finally gets the gun to fire and doesn't hit himself long enough to kill himself. Only blow off his head. I guess that's not funny, but it was a hell of a story for his first not generic call. My EMT friend told me about that and I called him and ended up having a doctor to shut up his ass. They were totally professional, no laughing with ambulance, all the way to the hospital. They kept it together. They get to the hospital, and the first thing the doctor says is, does he want me to take it out and take this thing? And they all
Oh, you in trouble now.
I worked for a fire department back in the incident at the training. I was out one night with my coworker driving around. hoping to catch an interesting call when we get flagged down by a
I think it hates me.
throwing bodies from the road. We figure it's BS, but we drive around the corner under the freeway and
Bring it on.
two bodies in the road and a guy on the road. I jump out and start putting gloves on to check for vitals, and my partner starts to call it in. Being the poor part of the street sign has been stolen, so he drives off to look at the sign at the other end of the street, leaving me in the middle of the road with two bodies. One guy had been his life, so I left him and went to check on the guy that was still breathing. About that time, the police arrive up on the bridge and detain the guy up there. Long story short, the ambulance arrived and transported one guy. The other guy went home to find him. It turns out that the three men were driving down the road to fight about drugs broke out, and they swerved into the guardrail, got out of the car, and started throwing each other over the side. 911 dispatcher. So while I hear a lot of calls, I don't actually get to go out and see it. Regardless, we get a lot of stories that come back to our center, so we usually get closure on calls we're interested in calling. Anyway, reading all these stories reminds of one call regarding a woman who was drunk.
Hell no.
She left the bar she was at and was lying in the middle of a downtown road at 4 a.m. Ordinarily, the road is pretty busy, but at that time, there's obviously not a whole lot of traffic. She laid down in the eastbound lane, and after sitting for a few minutes without being hit, she decided to all the while, her friend was screaming and trying to get the woman to come out of the road. Sure enough, we eventually got the call that she had been hit by a car and sent EMS and the fire department. We were later told by the paramedics they had to get together to decide how they were going to transport her. She had legs spread eagled on the road, I think, and the result was partially torn straight through. One of her legs, rather than extending down from the torso, was instead nearly shorn off. The top of the thigh was off to the side, and her leg extended upwards. I'm not sure what the medics were doing, but I think she was transported, maybe via helicopter. So I'm fuzzy on the details, but it's one of the few calls that made me go.
Come on!
Also, not that a friend. He was driving down the highway, got in weren't there yet. Everyone was just driving around and keep going. So come on. So he pulls over to the nose like this full mile. Two people in one car are obviously dead. So he runs over to the other car. He manages to pull the driver out of the car. But look at the passengers. They had been decapitated, and about 40 feet outside the car. Went into the backseat where a woman had been.
Oh! Power! You're playing on top?
All in all, even the safety
So you're playing on top?
University later.
What?
So you're playing on top?
Graduated 2 years ago, saving away from the comments. This one's from a nurse. I did 1 day's work as a
What?
So you're playing on top?
Yeah, right now.
Are you going to come back into that guy?
The person grading me.
Oh, player channel! I want to see if he's actually
I asked this dude as many questions.
Bring it!
Each student has
Dad?
no more, no less.
I want to see if Thanos actually cute.
Ah, got him.
He
Show
answers,
me.
toilet
Give
breakfast.
me his Thanos
I chuckle, and a student comes in.
Dad?
I have to wait 8
Oh, yeah.
minutes without a word before.
They're staying over right there.
Yes, business end.
Got it back.
I'm a police officer.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah. High five.
Bang the front.
I don't think
The unheard from Frank was a known
What?
prescription drug user.
The next level,
So right away, we assumed it
They're
was
staying on the street
my
there.
partner and knocked on her door. And from inside, we actually heard someone moving around.
This way.
He
We
shoots
started
you.
calling her name, and from inside, we could hear her calling for help.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kicked the door,
But he does.
and the first thing that
Buzz.
hit us was the
You
smell.
have to show me.
We followed her voice down the hallway,
Yes.
past the bathroom, and into her bedroom
Alright,
where
stop.
and everything we had
Show
passed on the way.
me.